Aloha, I'm Malia Zimmerman, and this is News Behind the News. Today I have an interesting guest who's running for Congress. He's been in the council, and he's a well-known figure in Hawaii. I'd like to welcome Ikaika Anderson. He's a city council member from the windward side of Oahu. Welcome to the show.
Aloha. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Well, I'm so glad you came on because, well, first of all, I think it's your grandfather, who used to be a senator, Senator Whitney Anderson.
My grandfather served in the legislature for 20 years. He got elected the year I was born, and he served until 2000.
And your whole family is a well-known part of the windward side of the island, and of course I know you from working with you on the Kailua Fireworks Project, where you helped us get fundraising for that and helped us with the community and the support and everything. So really appreciate that. And now it's like you have this whole long history in Hawaii, and I would love for you to share that with our viewers, because you're running for Congress and they should know more about you.
Well, again, thank you very much for the opportunity to come and talk story with you today. I was born and raised in windward Oahu, and my mom had me as a single parent. And when I was 2 years old, I went to live with my grandfather and my grandmother, Hanny and Whitney Anderson, and they raised me from that point. So whenever I did not have school and there was no babysitter available, I ended up tagging along with my grandfather to work at the state capitol. So his colleagues at the legislature, Calvin Say, Joe Suki, John Medeiros, Barbara Maramoto, Donna Ikeda, they all became like aunties and uncles to me. And I was very fortunate to have that type of upbringing. Later on, down the road, my mom met one of my baseball coaches, and they got married. He became my stepfather, and I have two additional half-sisters. And when my mom remarried, she offered me to move back with her and with my stepfather, but I chose to stay with my grandparents because that's where I'd always been. But I was very fortunate as a child growing up here in Hawaii to be surrounded by a wonderful family, a close-knit family, and a family with a lot of love.
Now, your grandmother also has a flower shop, if I'm not mistaken, in Kaneohe. That is a well-known flower shop. Is that right?
My grandmother has Hali'ipua Florist, which is located in Kaneohe, right across from Hawaiian Memorial Graveyard.
Gone there many times. Yep.
Well, thank you very much for your business.
Yeah.
We've been there for nearly 30 years, quite a while.
So you've got a balance of a grandfather who was in government and the legislature, and a grandmother who can appreciate business and the challenges of being in business in Hawaii.
Well, my grandmother assisted my grandfather in running their multiple mom and pop businesses that they had throughout the years. And she's really what held our family together while my grandfather was trying to balance the business and being a state lawmaker and trying to be a dad to me. My grandmother was being the mother, balancing the family business, her everyday job at Hawaiian Airlines. And my mom and my stepfather, I also went back and forth between as well, in addition to my great-grandparents. So really, I always had a home to go to. I was always surrounded by people who took very good care of me. And really, I was very fortunate to have that type of upbringing.
It's very Hawaiian and appreciative, you know, Hawaii, kind of typical Hawaiian families, I think.
Absolutely, where the grandparents might help out if mom and dad get busy or mom and dad hold multiple jobs. That was the case in our family when my mom was a single mom. My grandparents really stepped up to assist, and when my mom married my stepfather, even with him, you know, she got together with him. I believe he was 23 years old, so he became a dad to me when he was very young. And I was very, very fortunate to have two very strong father figure roles in my life.
That's great. So you ran, where did you go to school? Where was it that did you stay here?
Through high school and elementary school and intermediate school, I was at Kamehameha from kindergarten to 6th grade. I went to University High School for 7th and 8th grade, and then I graduated from Kamehameha schools. Went back there from 9th grade to 12th grade. After I graduated from high school, I wasn't quite ready for college, so I decided to join the workforce. And I worked for a year at Aloha Airlines, out on the ramp in the hot sun, literally tossing luggage for a living. And it was after doing that for a year that I decided I wanted to go back to school. So I went back and enrolled in the University of Hawaii at Manoa. I majored in both political science and journalism. And while I was in school, I also held full-time employment at the state legislature And that's really where I got additional exposure to the legislative process and realized definitively that I wanted to enter public service and do my best to make a positive impact in other people's lives, but more importantly, in the community at large. I really saw public service as a solid opportunity to do that.
Now, was there an issue or a turning point for you that made you see that, or is it just the whole experience that made you want to get into public service?
Really, it was just the experience of being surrounded by my grandparents and my mom and dad, all of who did a lot of community service. But my grandfather always taught me that you treat all people the same, regardless where they come from, what they do, who they are. You treat folks the same way that you want to be treated. And always do your best to try to help people in need.
Now,
and that mantra really stuck with me, and I saw opportunity to serve with public service.
Yeah, well, now you ran for the city council, not the legislature, even though you'd spent a lot of time in the legislature. Mm-hmm. What made you choose that? Was it just the opening of, you know, because you had worked in the city council as well, right, if I'm not mistaken?
Well, actually, I did run for the state legislature right after I graduated from college. I became a budget analyst in the State House Finance Committee, and after that, is when I graduated from UH Manoa and decided I wanted to give elective office a try. So I ran for the State House of Representatives. I lost my primary, but out on the campaign trail, I met Barbara Marshall, who ended up getting elected to the Honolulu City Council. And Barbara offered me a unique opportunity to join her staff at City Hall. And at first I thought, well, I don't have any experience in city government, but really, government is government, service is service. Let's give this a try, we can do it. And honestly, Malia, I found that state government and city government are extremely different. City government is much closer to the people. City government also affords the elected official to be able to realize a much more quicker basis the impact of the decisions that they make. You can approve a plan today, and within a matter of weeks, you could see different projects breaking ground. I mean, it's amazing the speed that these projects go forward with, and the implementation that your decisions have.
And also, it's different issues. I mean, the city is just real basic, a lot of real basic issues, safety, security, transportation, things like that, sewage, water.
Well,
I mean, things that people need.
The city and county of Honolulu, and all of our counties actually, really provide the core services from government that people come to expect and that people rely on to be able to function in their everyday lives. Like you said, sewage, refuse pickup, our water, and our police, fire, and ambulance service.
Right.
Those are all critical services that really are core to what all of our counties do and the services that they provide to our people.
Right, and that's, legislature also, of course, provides important services, but like education and things like that, but really the city is really important. We have that in our everyday lives, for sure.
Absolutely.
So what made you decide to run for Councilmember Marshall's seat?
Well, after she got ill with cancer for a third time, we honestly thought that she would pull through it. She'd beaten it twice before. After she passed away, I talked to my wife, Lisa, and told her that I was interested in succeeding Barbara Marshall, who became another mentor to me. And I told her that I really wanted to give this a try. We talked with Barbara's family. Her husband and her son came forward and endorsed my candidacy. And we ran for the Honolulu City Council. But it was really through Barbara that I got to see exactly how city government works, how these core services really impact the everyday lives of people. And I also really came to see how important information is. Barbara, as a journalist, really taught us the importance of information and harnessing that information and getting it out there accurately. And she stressed accurately to the people that she represented.
The interesting thing about her was she always had good questions, and I'm sure that came from being in the journalism business before, where she kind of had a sharp mind that way, and that was fun to watch her. And actually, her son, I think it's Joe, right?
Joe.
was a classmate of mine at Chaminade, or around the same time that I was there as well. So he's a very nice person, and that was a big deal that you got his endorsement as well.
It was huge that I had the endorsement of Barbara's family to succeed her. It was a blessing, was an honor that they placed their trust in me to carry forward Barbara's legacy.
Now, what do you think it is that you've done on the council that you feel is either the most important or some of the most important things that have happened while you're there and that you've accomplished?
Well, that's a great question, Malia. I mean, some people might ask, geez, you've been on the council for 4 years. What could you possibly have accomplished in that time? You know, my second meeting as a city council member pitted me against the city administration, the mayor at the time, who was proposing a 10% increase in the residential real property tax rate. The council was split. Council member Duke Bainham had passed away the evening before. So here we were back with an 8-member council. And you had half of the council who was looking at implementing the mayor's 10% real property tax increase, and you had the other half that was not. My office actually came forth with a compromise, which was in the neighborhood of 5%, a little less. And our proposal actually carried the day. So to try to put this in dollars and cents, we were at a real property tax rate for the residential class at the time of $3.29 per $1,000 of assessed value. The mayor wanted to take it to $3.59. We proposed a rate of $3.42. That was back in 2009, and it carried. Today, we have a real property tax rate for the residential class at $3.50, which still today, 4 years later, is 9 cents less than what the administration proposed at that time. And very honestly, had the administration then won that battle to increase the real property tax rate, it's very likely that our residents today would be faced with a real property tax rate for the residential class near the $4 mark. So that was a huge victory for us. Additionally, when the Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transportation came to be, Hart and the city administration at the time was of the opinion that Hart was able to approve their own budget, so to speak. And it was my office that authored an amendment to the Hart budget that allowed for the city council to have appropriation authority over Hart's budget, much the same way that the city council has the appropriation authority over the city and county budget in the city and county of Honolulu. So these are two things that my office really worked on that I felt were solid victories for the taxpayer and the general populace in Honolulu. District-wide, we were able last year to save Kailua Beach Park and Kalama Beach Park from an overabundance of commercial activity going on. Now some folks might say, wow, you know, that's just one part of the island. But really, Malia, that's a problem that had plagued that particular community for more than 30 years.
And it's your district too, so.
It is.
Right, right.
And nothing was able to be done. And we actually succeeded in introducing and passing 2 pieces of legislation within 1 calendar year that in 30 years hadn't been done.
Now, what was it that, I know that was a big controversy because it was about, you know, commercial activity on the beach, and a lot of the residents didn't want it, but some of the local businesses did, and the battle in Kailua goes on and on. I'm from Kailua, born and raised in Kailua, know it very well. Generations of my family have lived there. And I know that the battle continues between both sides, the residents that don't want you know, vacation rentals, and they don't want commercial activity, they don't want big buses of tourists coming to drop off people. And there was just something in the news recently about the Hawaii Tourism Authority, you know, asking the Hawaii Tourism Authority to take down the promotion of Kailua as an alternative to Waikiki. Right. So, you know, it goes on and on for years and years, and that's fine, because it's just a battle of Kailua doesn't want to grow. A lot of people in Kailua don't want it to change, but there's also forces outside. But with this bill in particular, it was targeting kayak companies or companies that were doing commercial activity, right?
The bill that we introduced was actually targeting any commercial operator that was operating inside the beach parks, Kailua or Kalama, or on any of the city-owned rights-of-ways and easements surrounding the community, all the way from Lanikai to Castle Point. So the bills that we introduced actually addressed all of that. Now, some folks might say, well, you know, those are really Kailua-focused and didn't benefit the rest of the island. What I would say is, any community that elects me to represent them, I will do my darndest to advocate on their behalf and to advocate their will. Very truthfully, Malia, I had proposed to the community allowing a handful of commercial vendor permits and licenses that would have allowed for a very select few, maybe 3, tops 4. at Kailua Beach Park and Kalama Beach Park. And the residents spoke loud and clear, and they said, no, that's not what we want. We've had an overabundance for decades. We really need a cease and desist for now. And I heard them, and that's what we did.
Yeah.
And really, when you represent any constituency, of course you have to go with your heart, you have to go with your gut and do what you feel is best by weighing all the different life experiences that you have. But at the end of the day, you do have an obligation to represent the will of your constituents, and that's what we did with those two measures.
Now you're running for Congress, which is a big jump from the City Council, but it's been done before. For example, recently with Council Member Tulsi Gabbard became a Congresswoman, and we see her doing quite well in Congress. What made you decide to want to run for Congress this time in 2014?
Well, as you mentioned, historically, the Honolulu City Council has sent a few members to Congress. In the last 22 years, I believe we've sent 4 members of the City Council to Congress. Neil Abercrombie, Patsy Mink, Charles DeJoux, and now Tulsi Gabbard. The reason that I really am stepping forward to run for Congress is now more than ever, people have really lost trust in the United States Congress. The United States Congress is broken. You have too many partisan folks in Congress, whether it be on the far left or on the far right, who draw those proverbial lines in the sand, and they're not willing to look beyond that. What we need is a consensus builder, someone who has some record of accomplishment in their current job that they've worked in, but someone who also has a record of accomplishment in consensus building, in collaboration, and can reach across both sides of the aisle and be able to bring people to the center. And I think that I have the skills to do just that.
In the City Council, it's a nonpartisan role, and your grandfather was a Republican, but he had a lot of friends that were Democrats. So is that what you mean about reaching across the aisle? Is that kind of how you see it in Hawaii, or?
That's a big part of it.
Yeah.
You know, my grandfather was always able to work with people on both sides of the aisle. I've been a Democrat for the past 12 years. Obviously, I'm running for Congress as a Democrat. Whenever I've sought elective office, it's only been as a Democrat. But that aside, I'm really a people person. I'm about people. And if I'm elected, I'm not elected to only represent Democrats. I would be elected to represent Republicans, Greens, Libertarians, nonpartisan, all of the people of Hawaii. And honestly, Malia, being that Hawaii is such a small state, and we only have 2 congressional seats, I've always felt that both of those seats belong equally to all of Hawaii's people.
Right.
And our 2 representatives need to work together. I've worked together with Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard as a council member, and I know I would be able to provide her with a solid, able partner in Congress to help us move Hawaii forward.
Now, this seat that you're running for is currently held by Colleen Hanabusa, who's going to run against the current U.S. Senator Brian Schatz, who of course was appointed to that position by Governor Neil Abercrombie after Senator Inouye passed away. So there's a lot of shuffling around, and which always is good for opportunity for new people to come in and share their ideas. But you also have 3 other people running against you: Representative Mark Takai, who's a state representative, Stanley Chang, who's a council member, and Willie Aspero, who's a senator. And how do you think you differ from them? Since they're all Democrat, everybody's a Democrat. So what do you think you, in terms, I know you haven't had your debates yet, so it's a little hard because you're maybe not sure, but what do you think makes you stand out above them, I guess?
Well, the benefit that all of the voters in Congressional District 1 will have is that with 4 candidates, at least 4 thus far, they'll have a solid variety of choices from whom to decide to send to Washington, D.C. My social leanings, I believe, are a lot more liberal and a lot more inclusive than you'll see with the other candidates. I've consistently supported marriage equality. I've consistently supported Native Hawaiian self-determination. I've consistently supported solid, affordable health care, as well as assistance to be able to help those who are part of the middle class to be able to stay there, if not to move up. And for those folks who are struggling to get to the middle class and who are not quite there, giving them that additional hand up that they need, not hand out, but hand up that they need to bring them there. And as our campaign moves forward, I will be prepared, I am actually prepared, to talk a bit about what we want to do to strengthen the middle class and to bring more people into it and to keep more people there.
Well, maybe you can talk a little bit about your platform or your, what do you think the biggest issues are in Washington and how you would address them? we have so many different issues from, you know, Syria right now and all these things, and hopefully by the time, if you were elected, it wouldn't be an issue as hot as it is right now. But what are some of the big issues that you see, and how do you think you would address them?
Well, first and foremost, we need to send someone to Congress again who can work with all sides. That's key. Right now, I also see that we've got to do what we can to strengthen our middle class. Hawaii receives roughly $20 billion in federal money every single year. And I'd like to look at how we can restructure and reprogram some of those existing federal dollars without asking for new dollars that would likely be unavailable, to ensure that as much federal money as possible reaches the people, the middle class, those below, who really need help the most. Can we assist our renters a little more? Can we possibly look at a cost of living adjustment that the federal government provides for their employees to assist some of our neediest? I mean, let's face it, Malia, the federal government recognizes Hawaii as one of the most expensive places in the country to live, which is why they provide their employees with a better than a 12% cost of living adjustment, or a COLA, so that their federal employees can have a little bit more to stay here, to work here. Can we reprogram some of our federal dollars to be able to help our neediest of people, again, without asking for more money? Can we see if we can assist our veterans with allowing all veterans to have shopping privileges at our commissaries? Currently, my understanding is that you either need to be active military, retired with 20 years of service, or retired with any number of years of service but certified as totally disabled in order to receive shopping privileges. Why can't we provide that to all of our men and women in uniform who have served their country honorably? And I don't think that costs the taxpayer anything, but it would certainly provide an incentive for folks to serve, and it would give them a little bit, just a little bit more, to help to control the escalation in their cost of living once they're POW with their service. And I think that's the least that we can do as a nation to show our gratitude.
I know when Senator Ikaika was in, one of his big issues was the COLA, cost of living adjustment for federal employees. I know he fought for that, for Native Hawaiian rights, as you mentioned, and also for the veterans. So he was, those were definitely things that he was passionate about as well. And of course, he served on the Veterans Committee as the chair. Yeah. So who do you think in Hawaii has been an inspiration to you in terms of maybe either political figures, business figures, family members, friends? Who is it that you look up to or you see as a good role model?
Well, my grandfather and my stepfather certainly have shaped who I am, and my desire to want to be a solid public servant, while at the same time, as my stepfather did, doing the best I possibly can to be a role model and to strengthen my own family. My wife Lisa and I have 4 beautiful children, which keep us especially busy. Well,
you better name them all on the show, because otherwise they're going to be upset with you.
Well, my eldest daughter, Tiani, will be 12 tomorrow on September 11th. My eldest son, JW, is 9, and we have twins, son and daughter, Caleb and Kylie, who are 3.
Oh my goodness, you have twins.
We do.
You must be quite busy.
Well, my wife is quite busy. I actually get to go to work while she, for the past 3.5 years, has been staying home with the twins. But they just started preschool, so she's looking to return to work as well as return to school.
Well, that's great. That's a good family, and it's nice that you have a nice big family.
You know, it's wonderful, Malia, to have a family to go home to at the end of the day, and to have a family that really supports me so very much. If we are successful, and I say we, because my family collectively has joined me on this campaign, and my wife and I made the decision to do this together, to run together. If we win, my family will join me in relocating to Washington, D.C., so that I don't need to be a part-time husband to my wife or a part-time father to our kids and decide, well, do I stay in D.C. for these critical votes, or do I go home for Kylie and Caleb's first day of kindergarten? And I was there for Tiani and JW's first day of kindergarten, so I've got to be able to do the same.
It's a real challenge to be a congress member and be dedicated like that. I know Charles DeJoux, I've spoken to him on the show a few times, and he would talk about how many frequent flyer miles he had. Quite a bit of traveling, and can be exhausting. So, and Ed Case as well talked about that and the challenges of going back and forth, especially being that our district is so far away from Washington, D.C.
Ed actually flew back quite a bit. At one point, he was coming back once a week. I don't know how he did it, but he did it.
I know, he's, he's a man of steel, and his wife works for the airlines, so she may have trained him. I'm not sure.
That could be.
Yeah. So, so just so people are, have clarity, it's not a risk for you in that you're already in the council. You're not going to lose your seat. So no matter what, you're still going to represent the windward side, unless if you win, and then you'll represent the windward side. You will represent the windward side, but in Congress. Is that right? Is that the congressional district for the windward side?
The congressional district for the windward side is Congressional District 2, which is represented by Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. So if I am elected to Congress, then there would be a special election to fill my seat on the Honolulu City Council. If I am not elected to Congress, then I would serve through my current term on the City Council and have to run for re-election in 2016, if I decide to do that.
So what is it that you want in your final minute? What is it that you want people to know about you?
Really, I just want folks to know that I'm stepping forward and really offering myself to serve the people of Hawaii in the capacity as the representative in our U.S. Congress from the 1st Congressional District. I'm a husband, I'm a father, come from a working family, like so many of our average everyday working families do. And my wife and I face the same challenges and the same hurdles that every family faces: putting food on the table, paying the mortgage, getting the kids to school, bringing them home, getting them to their everyday after-school activities and weekend activities. And in order for someone to go to Congress and represent our people, I really think it's important that we have someone who understands our people through actually living life the way they do and seeing things through their eyes. And I think that's what really also gives me another uniqueness, if you will, when you look at everybody running for this office at this particular point.
Now, what is your website if people want to find out more about your campaign? Can you tell people your website?
Our website is www.ikaikaforhawaii.com. We can also be reached by cell phone at 225-5733, or folks can also email us at info@ikaikaforhawaii.com.
And if people have a city matter, they can always contact you at the city council.
If people have any city matters that they want to talk to us about, or not even city matters, Malia, if people have a question regarding government in general, even if they're not sure where to turn, they can call us at 768-5003 or email me at ianderson@honolulu.gov. If it's not a city matter, we can get the answer and at the very least point them in the right direction.
All right, well, good luck to you. And
thank you very much.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
This has been News Behind the News. Aloha.